Good morning, and welcome to another brand new edition of Micat Hour. Micat Hour is that program that highlights the different government activities during the course of the week. It is the program that talks to officials of government, including ministers, director generals, but also we talk to representatives, and other officials of government. We also talk to civil society people, whose work are relevant to the government of the Republic of Liberia. I mean, we've talked to the different ministers that usually are at the spotlight of discussion. I mean, you talking about the Minister of Finance, Minister Samuel Twe, Minister of Information, Minister Len Eugene Nangwe, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Public Works, you name it. All of them have been on this show, and we, have been giving you the needed information. My name is Boakai and Fofana. I'm here today along with
Kwame Opa Weeks, the Director General of the Liberia News Agency. And good morning again, Boakai.
Good morning, Kwame. As always, we begin firstly with the number of COVID-19 cases in the country, the status update of the COVID-19 battle that the government is fighting. Today we're going to talk about the number of cases. You know that the number of cases are reportedly increasing, right?
Right, and we're going to also be delving into the different demographics of those who are getting infected.
Yeah, who are those getting infected? Because there's been this talk that COVID-19 seemingly only
for old people.
For old people,
right.
But it seems as if that's not the case in Liberia.
The same situation in the U.S.
Yeah, so we're also going to be talking about the fact that the president has extended the state of emergency. He's also reduced the time that people are needed to be indoors. Initially it was around 9 o'clock. Now it's been reduced to 6.
Talking about that, Boakai, everybody thought it was going to be drip. So when it came from 3, it went to 6. And they didn't see the wisdom of the president and why he was being lenient, at the same time trying to, because, our economic belt was tightening and all of that. So he said, okay, let one hand wash the other.
I know.
But we took advantage of it. And I said we.
Yeah, I mean, all of us Liberians, that's the Liberian thing, right?
That's Sunday because, it was something that everybody was used to.
Mm-hmm.
It come on Friday after the 2 weeks elapsed, and then they moved to the next week. It went up 3 hours, then it went to 9. People thought now, okay, maybe it might go to 12 and everything would just be open like that. Boy, oh boy. I mean, you could see dancing babies everywhere, And
as a matter of fact, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about what necessitated the reduction of the time frame for people to be indoors. We're also going to be talking about the newly launched program by the Ministry of Health and the government of Liberia generally, that is, including the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Monrovia City Corporation, the the 1 million Max campaign that the government is launching. But I also understand there's a corresponding launch by Enfield, also of the Max for All, Max for All campaign.
It says no Max, no service.
Yeah, no Max, no service campaign.
Yeah, we're also going to look at the reminder about the food aid distribution.
Yeah.
What was the intent, or what is the intent?
Yeah.
Or what's been misconstrued about it? Because almost everything this government does has been misconstrued. Mm-hmm. Even if you breathe air into them, they say, no, this air is not good, though it's making them to survive.
And of course, under the whole Max for All, or actually the 1 million Max program that the government has initiated, the government also gave out for the production of those Max 40 million Liberian dollars, about 40 million Liberian dollars to the Liberian Tailor Union. So that's money in the economy. That's money going to be used to empower local entrepreneurs, so that they can expand their businesses. We're going to be talking more about that.
And then President George Manawea participates in West Africa. That is the monetary zone meeting. We're going to delve into that also.
And then we're also going to be talking about the fact that the government has issued a stern warning, a very stern warning to agitators out there. People who think they call them agent provocateurs, right? Rabble rousers.
And what surprised me about this time, I see a lot of people who will come, oh no, this will not bite and so forth. And that's one thing, the Liberian people peace now, you don't touch it.
You know,
Don't touch it.
and it
You
just
know.
gladdens my heart. You know, it makes me proud when Liberians can agree that, well, we can differ on everything.
Right.
You know, we can talk all the politics, we can go back and forth and attack one another civilly. But when it comes to violence, that's something that we do not countenance. And you've seen
Right.
people across the political landscape criticizing what happened on Thursday. And hopefully we'll get the Information Minister, Eugene Nangbe, to talk more about that.
Right, and not also forgetting the discussion also with Dr. Jared Brown.
Yeah.
Dr. Jared Brown is the head of the Liberia's National Case Management.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about. This is probably going to be the first time we're going to be hearing from somebody within the treatment center.
And we
know.
have this one just in. This one just in. There was this fence, residence of Representative Snow of Bomi County. He had a very tragic incident today. I think it was 24th Street, is it?
Yeah.
20th Street, right?
I think
18th
it happened
Street,
on 18th Street. But yes, the caveat. I mean, firstly, there was heavy rain last evening. As a matter of fact, myself was even afraid. I woke up in the middle of the night and look around. That's when you see the roads coming.
I had to create a little bridge to get into my car.
Oh wow! This
Yeah,
morning.
Yeah, I put brakes down, two
Yeah.
brakes, and before, because I didn't anticipate that. But staying with that story on 18th Street, there were loss of lives. People didn't expect. People, you know how tough it is. Folks going about their normal business. You're not sick, and boom, someone calls your loved one and say,
Yeah.
XYZ is out.
So in other words, the breaking news is that a fence on 19th Street collapsed.
18th Street.
On 18th Street collapsed. Some of the other streets look so similar. But yeah, the fence, a major fence on 18th Street collapsed last night or in the early hours of this morning.
Right.
And that has become the subject of conversation. In fact, it was reported on the news that the fence belonged. It belongs
The
to
property, right?
Yeah, Representative Edwin Evans Snow. But similarly, he wants to clarify that that isn't the case. So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking to Representative Snow briefly just before we begin our show. You're listening
Right.
to Micat Hour.
Right.
Welcome back to Micat Hour. Like we said, we're going to be talking about various activities of the government during the course of the week, but we will begin firstly with something that's breaking. That is, due to heavy rains overnight, apparently a number of people have been affected, but one prominent news story that has been talked about, especially on the ELBC news this morning, is the fact that a fence on 18th Street
Successfully recorded. Thank you for choosing.
Is the fact that a fence on 18th Street, collapsed this morning. It's a serious news story, by the way. On 18th Street collapsed this morning, and 5 people tragically lost their lives. So that was quite a tragic news. But it was reported that the fence that collapsed belonged to Representative Edwin Melvin Snow. Representative Snow is currently on the line. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning, Becca. Good morning to the listening public.
Okay, so this fence that is reported to have collapsed, it was said that it belongs to you. Is that a fact?
Well, let me first extend my deepest sympathy to the bereaved family for such a very, very unfortunate situation. Having said that, I just want to make this clarity to the public that the information is false. That property is not mine. It's owned by one Hillary Mason, I think. I have nothing to do with that property. Yes, I'm the previous owner of the property. I sold that property since 2008, and the fence wasn't erected by me. It was erected by the new owner, so I have nothing to do with the property.
So you sold the property. It previously belonged to you, but currently it's no longer yours. It's been
Since
you ceded that
2008.
property to another person since 2008. So it's now the responsibility of the new owner, not Representative Snow's.
I have absolutely nothing to do with that property. I did not erect the fence. I don't own the property. I don't pay taxes on it. I'm not owning it. My name is not on the deed of the property. Again, it's very unfortunate unfortunate that lives have been lost, but just to clarify that I'm not the owner of that property, and I do not have any leaning with that property at all.
Representative Snow, this is Kwame. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, my brother.
Okay, I just want to ask you this hypothetical. Let's assume you own this property, and this morning such a tragedy happened. What will you do? I want you to walk the public through it.
Well, it's a very, very unfortunate situation. It's extremely unfortunate, and when human lives becomes a subject, it's a difficult thing to put any other situation other than the sentiments and express your grief and see how best you can work with the bereaved family. So there's nothing legal about this that you say, well, I had a legal ground or I had a right. I can tell you for a fact, though, before that property was sold, all of those behind the fence that have built, I erected something on the fence, and you can ask the community leader. We went there and we paid everyone off the property. Unfortunately, you understand the situation back home. People went ahead and erected the properties there, or structures behind the fence, and such an unfortunate situation has taken place. So there's no justification other than to sympathize with the bereaved family and then see how best we can lay the victims to rest. But again, I am not owner of the property. I have nothing to do with that property, but I sympathize with the family as a fellow Liberian citizen and as a human being as myself.
So what is being put out there is actually not the fact where they say folks were just walking past the fence and the fence dropped. Walk us through exactly what happened.
Well, again, I am not the owner of the property, so I cannot walk you through it because I don't know what the new owners did with the property. I don't know how it was erected. I did not erect the fence, and I don't think I'll be the best person to walk you through that.
The reason for this question, you just said that you pay people off, and the fence, according to you, broke, and apparently it fell on some structures that are behind it. That's prompted my question.
Yeah, I know. I understand your question. I'm just saying to you that because I did not erect the fence. So
obviously you don't know much about it. You can explain.
Yeah, so I don't know how the engineers did the fence. I don't know how they erected the fence.
Lastly, I just wanted to ask you said you know the owner, right?
Yeah.
Have you been in contact with him this morning?
Yeah, they've called me. Matter of fact, when I called them. I called them to express my sympathy, and I think they are already on the scene and making whatever arrangement they can make. But again, I'm not the owner of the property, and I sympathize with the bereaved family.
Okay. Another thing you want to talk about, Representative Snow?
No, I normally listen to your show on Friday, and I wish you a successful show, and I hope that you guys can continue to educate the nation because we need all the necessary information we can get for our people now. So thanks for the show. Thanks for your high degree of professionalism, and I encourage you to continue your hard work.
Thank you so much. That's the voice of Honorable Edwin Melvin Snow. He's basically clarifying.
I like that clarity.
Yeah, that the property doesn't belong to him because some of the times there's a tendency to.
What do you make what he said? Legally, he was talking.
No, it means basically, I think he sold the property to another person, but he also said he didn't construct the fence.
No, I'm talking about in terms of liability.
Yeah, so I mean, we're not legal people, so we can talk about liability. So anyway, let's talk about the number of cases in the country. Currently, we have the total number of cases 681 in Liberia. That's a huge jump from the previous number of cases we were reporting back in May. That was before the state of emergency. There were intentions to completely lift the state of emergency, and also the hours for the stay-at-home period were somewhat adjusted. And then it seemed as if a number of Liberians didn't read properly into the message that was being sent. The message that was being sent basically was that we were relaxing the hours and the stringent measures. Firstly, in light of the fact that the government, when I say we, thought that a number of Liberians were already familiar with the modes by which COVID-19 is spread, and so they would take responsible actions. So the government relaxed some of the measures, but it seemed as if people did quite the opposite. They started to take irresponsible measures. They started to go out in public without masks, without washing their hands and all of that. and without social distancing, cases started to jump, astronomically. And there were periods when we're reporting. I mean, back in May and April, we're reporting 4, 5, 6 cases. Now we're reporting 40, 39, 19 cases per day. So our case load similarly is rising by the day. Currently, we have a total number of confirmed cases in the country: 681 confirmed cases that we've reported since the onset of the disease in Liberia on March 16. And we've said continuously that total number of confirmed cases in the country doesn't mean total number of actual cases at the treatment center. So the total number of actual cases at the treatment center currently is 369. Now, that is extremely huge. The last time we talked to Dr. Fala on the show, he told us that the capacity at the military hospital is about 150 to 200 people. So if we're talking 369 number of cases in the country, that's overwhelming, the designated facility for the treatment of COVID-19 patients.
And I remember the health minister when I interviewed her at the RIA when they went to pick up that tonic drink from Madagascar. I asked her about ventilators and so forth, and she said, "Look, Mr. Weeks, I understand all of that, but this is not a disease that we want to fight in the hospital. We can work hard on awareness and all of that." And you saw how the president kicked off to the point where it took outsider, to say, "No, this is a powerful song, this is a powerful message," and all of that.
And as a matter of fact, he got the necessary recognition from international organization for that song, such as UNESCO
and we're not taking advantage. We deleted the song. We threw the buckets away. We're shaking hands. We're hugging. We're kissing, as if to say, the virus is gone. And this is not cool at all.
And so another thing we're going to be talking about today is the fact that the president has extended the state of emergency, by additional 30 days. It was due to expire on the 21, in keeping with the resolution that was adopted by the national legislature when the president proclaimed the state of emergency on April 8, and it was subsequently adopted by the national legislature on April 21. So 60 days later, the state of emergency was due to expire. The president said, well, in light of the new situation, on the advice of health authorities, we're going to be extending the state of emergency and also reducing the hours from 9 p.m. that you need to be indoors to 6 p.m. Have you observed people been observing that? I mean, have you?
I really don't sleep most of the time. I just hop in my car to go and see what's happening.
Okay.
Day one was okay. Yesterday was just a little bit. But I tell you this, I think it was day before yesterday. We thought to go out on Broad Street, somewhere around Randall and Broad there, to talk to some citizens, and you'd be surprised by what one guy told me. You know that he's educated, and he was like, when Ellen virus was here, we used to see dead body then like ants, the ambulance passing by us. Yeah, the recording is there.
And basically, that is the impression a lot of people have. They say they're not seeing dead bodies.
Guess what? He said, then Joe, we have virus come. And,
so Ebola was Ellen virus.
Yeah.
And COVID-19 is Joe. We have
naivety.
Right.
And then after he said that, he said we don't see nobody dying, we don't see no ambulance and all of that. This thing is not real.
Well, I mean, what is real is that COVID-19 is more infectious than Ebola was.
Right.
What is also real is that Ebola was more deadly than COVID-19 is. But it still doesn't negate the fact that you need to take responsible measures, because you might not be symptomatic, but who knows whether your son or your wife or your daughter, or people living under your roof could be very symptomatic, who have pre-existing conditions.
Right.
So it's not just saving your life, but saving the lives of people around you. So you need to be responsible.
Correct.
In what, it could be your grandmother. They are more susceptible to the disease.
And one good thing that I observe also is that there's no max, no service. I think it is working.
Okay.
Yeah, because
what is that? I mean, the no mask, no service.
Okay, so if you don't wear, I know some people say nose mask, but it's a face mask or mask. If you don't wear a mask, you went in the supermarket, for example, they won't serve you.
Okay.
If you insist, because first normally you won't breach the protocol to pass the door, the security will be there. But if you use that, our Liberian force, who I am. but then you won't be served. And if you should get into an altercation, even if you're an official of government, to the point where they accuse you of saying you don't want to wear masks, that's why it escalated to that point. You know, you're being big mess. So we are supposed to be frontliners and set example. I get to the checkpoint, my mask is on. In our office, it's a whole no mask. You don't come inside.
Yeah. And that's the intent of the no mask, no service thing. It was launched sometime during the course of the week, but also correspondingly, the 1 million masks campaign was also launched by the government of Liberia.
Right.
You know, so the 1 million masks campaign basically is to ensure that a number of people, because the government wants to take some stern actions.
Right.
But then people have been complaining, they don't have masks and all of that. So the government is going to be providing you 1 million masks for people across the country.
Right.
So the 1 million masks, we're going to have 600,000 in Monrovia or in Montserrado County, because that's it seems as if that's the the hub currently, if you will, of the disease. And then the other 400,000 is going to be distributed. The epicenter. Okay, that's the word I wanted to use.
Right.
The other 400,000 is going to be distributed across the country, and basically the government is going to be giving. The government is going to be empowering, just like they did with farmers with the food aid distribution.
Right.
And one of the things that people haven't really understood is this. I just wanted to go over that before I talk to Dr. Brown. Is the fact that the 30,000 that was passed over to the WFP for the food distribution, the government made sure that the WFP made it clear to the WFP that they need to buy from local farmers. So in addition to the importation to the buying of imported materials, they need to make sure that a significant chunk of that, the whole World Bank $5 million is going to be used to buy local produce, oil, local rice, and all of those stuff. And the government's own 25 million, a significant portion is going to be also used to buy local rice, and oil and all the different stuff. What that means is that it's going to give a huge jump to local entrepreneurs, agribusinesses and all of that.
And it's a way of stimulating the economy.
It's a way of stimulating the economy.
Money out to the people. We're not rich to be sending out stimulus checks around here.
So when people talked about that $9 billion the government was taking, the government not taking $9 billion. Basically, 1.6%, which is $1.8 million, is basically the standard rate for the WFP across the world. So even if they receive donation in Rome or Italy or France or wherever they are, they're going to take that amount of money for essential administrative costs.
Right. And
so the other $7.8 million is going to be going to warehouses, payment for warehouses, trucking, wages, and other services that are going to be rendered to them. So basically, that is still money going in the Liberian economy.
Right. And what I must be honest here. This is strike 2 on us. The 16 billion was strike 1.
Yeah.
This one also is strike 2.
Yeah.
We're not going to allow to go strike 3 and I get sent away. So this time now, when information gets out there, it has to. We're going to dice it.
Yeah.
Even if it means being late, we'll tell you, say, 1, we take our time, and say 2, we take our time, because to just say, okay, 9 million is the expensive, they just took that expensive because it was not broken down. They started because they took advantage of us trying to get something done.
And so this time again, the government, so while it is providing service to the people, in the form of the production of masks and what have you, but also stimulating the economy in a way, because 200,000, is going to be used, which when it's converted is $40 million.
Right.
It's going to be used for the tailor union. In fact, the check has been given to the tailor union, so that tailors across the country, because the Minister of Internal Affairs made sure that it's not just going to be confined to tailors in the Monrovia area, but it's going to be used by tailors across the country. That money is going to be used by tailors across the country to produce 1 million masks. So that's empowerment for local entrepreneurs.
I gotta go register for some of that money.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a tailor.
Yeah, so
human there.
So during the whole COVID-19 fight, the government is working hard to also empower businesses across the country. Now we're making attempts to get to Dr. Jerry Brown.
And not only that, I'm looking at my phone every second to see if I can get my text message. Salaries are being current.
Oh yeah,
That's a big one.
Oh yeah, salaries current, and that's huge. We got Dr. Brown currently on the line.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Brown.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, sir.
Okay, so Dr. Brown, just remind us about what your current role is.
Thank Thank you, and good morning to listeners out there.
Hmm.
My current role with the current response is head of the case management pillar, where I work in collaboration with the incident management system and partners
Okay.
to ensure we safely care for individuals that are tested positive or are confirmed patients, as well as ensuring that they don't pass on the disease to others who don't have it.
So basically, you are the head of the 14 Military Hospital, right?
I don't want to restrict my role to the 14 military hospital
Okay.
because I'm the
So
national
basically, you head that and
Management
other treatment centers across the country.
Yes.
Okay. So talk to us about how are you? Talk to us about your daily. How you coping at the treatment center? Because people were initially, I'm sure some of them still are, under the impression that this disease is so much dreaded, and and a lot of people wouldn't be able to survive it.
Thank you. That is not the case.
Okay.
This disease is spread rapidly, and you have many individuals getting infected as a result of the rapid mode of spread. When it comes to fertility, many persons survive the disease compared to that of Ebola. If the number of individuals getting infected now, the rate at which people are getting infected now was similar to Ebola, would have had more deaths than now.
Wow.
But Corona is not the case because there are different categories of individuals that get infected, and except the disease condition progresses to the severe or critical stage, you have a higher chance of surviving.
So-
Now, somebody, this is Kwame. Now, good morning, Doc. Now, okay, now somebody, the ordinary person will ask you out there, you talk about category, moving to the severe. Was it any time that we had, what is the current strain do we have here in Liberia?
The current what?
The strain of virus we have here.
You mean the different strain of the virus?
Right, is that been determined?
No, I can't tell you the various strain of the virus that exists in Liberia.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I mean, I think
Go ahead.
we questioned Dr. Fala about that earlier, but go ahead. You were going to say?
but we have people presenting in different categories.
Okay.
You have individual with mild disease. There are some individual with moderate disease,
Okay.
severe disease, and then critical disease. And all of them, you may have a mild disease where you were tested as a result of you being curious and you went and asked to be tested and you were confirmed,
Right.
and or you were a high risk contact or low risk contact and you were tested and suddenly your result came out being positive. People in that category will have no symptom, meaning they don't have any cough,
Right.
no fever, and do appear normal like an ordinary person. And once tested positive or confirmed, we try to get you out of the community and get you in an isolation center and or treatment site. And there are two primary reasons why we do that. One, to ensure that you don't pose danger to your family member.
Right.
Two, you don't pose danger to your community member and friend. Three, that you don't further spread the disease, because if in so doing, you will endanger not only the state but the economy as well.
Right.
Because the more you spread the disease to others tend to get infected and will continue struggling to contain it, and that will not that prevent us from going back to our normal state, and our economy, the country, and the world at large will be infected. So the goal is to get you out. And then once we get into a treatment center, we treat you symptomatically, meaning why in a treatment center? If your condition continue to be stable without symptoms, we only give you supplements to help to boost your immune system so that your
Okay.
body itself will have the ability to fight back.
So when you hear people say that, for instance, there was this video that was trending on social media where this guy was saying that he was at a treatment center for 14 days and he didn't receive any treatment and all of that. What do you say to him?
Well, we told him that he fell in the mild category, hence he never
Right.
needed IV fluid or needed oxygen, and except he progressed to the state. There are individuals who come in the mild state and may progress to the moderate state or severe state later. And you don't know when that happens.
Right.
So the best thing is to have them around where we monitor, do their oxygen saturation level to know it, and do their vital every day.
Right.
And then at some point, having gone through being asymptomatic for a period of time, we then repeat your test. Okay, and once the test is repeated and is negative, within the first 24 to 72 hours, we get it repeated. If it's negative, we discharge you
Okay.
and allow you to go home.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You when our cases were not going this high, we had a little challenge in contact tracing. Now we're sometimes we get in 40, we get in today is 19. Tell us the challenges now you're gonna go through in contacting these folks, especially with our numbers we have.
One of the challenge we have in contacting folks is that those that are tested positive in the first place are not giving us the right addresses
Oh, wow.
nor the right contact number. So when you have a positive result and you can't locate the individual, that's one challenge we have. The other thing, people are tested positive, you call upon them to get into treatment and they refuse.
This is
And
dangerous.
they refuse. They are out there in the community. We have more than 40 persons still out there in the community refusing to go for treatment. And that's a big challenge, and it will pose more danger for people.
But is there a way you can enforce that, Dak?
Well, I don't have the enforcement power. So we only discuss it at the level of the incident management system, and that will be passed on to the legal arm to see what measures we can put into place to ensure that the people come for treatment.
So
But the
this
main arm of the incident management system we're using now is the psychosocial team to see how we can convince the people to see reason to come for treatment or get isolated from their family member. And because of their refusal to do so, we continue to have a larger number of individuals getting positive.
so
That's
that,
one of our biggest challenges now.
wow.
I just wanted to ask about, people are initially under the impression that only old people can get infected from this disease. Talk to us about the kind of people that you're receiving.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
We have 75% of our people, of those that are positive now, being less than 40 years and below.
Wow.
So it's not an old age disease.
Right.
We've had children as young as 6 weeks old, 1 year old, 6 months, all being positive. So it's not a disease belonging to the elderly alone.
And do you have sufficient capacity at the military hospital so far? Is that the only treatment center we have for Monserrado right now at the moment, right?
No, we have 2 treatment sites now.
Okay.
One is the 14 military, and we now have the previously called the Lebanese treatment, the Lebanese Culture Union,
Right.
on the Oro.
Yeah.
We have now transformed that to a treatment site known as the Union Treatment Center, COVID-19 Treatment Center. We started admitting patients since yesterday,
Oh,
and
okay.
there are patients there now, and we also are admitting patients at the 14 military.
When we were here last week, Doc, we had our death numbers, fatality at around 33. Here we are today, it is 34. Tell our listeners, what are you doing different to keep the level of fatalities down?
Well, the level of fertility will remain low as long as center, especially those with signs and symptoms, much earlier.
Okay.
Like some of the individuals that are running away now will remain in the community and start having severe distress. And there's a state of the disease called acute respiratory distress syndrome. If you reach to that level or that severe state, within less than 24 hours, if you don't get attended to, you die.
Wow.
Even if they rush you to the hospital, there's very little we can do. So it's best that you come for care and then we continue to monitor you. We don't allow the patients within our center progress to that state because we get to identify at an earlier stage and then we provide the medications to prevent you from progressing further. That's why many of the patients brought at 40 military, even if they have respiratory distress but have not reached that state, tend to survive because we identify those complications as the patient is getting sicker. And once we identify that, we attend to you and you tend not to progress to the critical state.
So that
notwithstanding, we still have the intensive care unit so that if you progress to that state, we move you directly into the intensive care unit.
Wow.
Where we can provide more intensive care compared to those that are on the that have the moderate disease.
So that anybody can go into respiratory distress from this disease, right? Regardless of whether or not you had a pre-existing condition.
Of course, as the disease progresses to the moderate or severe state, you can definitely develop respiratory symptoms. In fact, the respiratory system, the upper and lower respiratory tract, are the primary organs that this disease tend to attack. And the lower end of your lungs, where you have exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide into the in and out of the blood, is where the disease tends to narrow. So you have a condition where the person feels like he or she is being choked and have air hunger and difficulty in breathing. Many of the patients, once you begin to provide an oxygen, and the oxygen tend to weigh out, they like crying for air and or go in the state of being someone who's air hunger and can't stand that severe state. If nothing is done about it, of course, the person tends to die.
Yeah, Doc, I want you to look at this situation, this scenario where you as you as a pilot and you're piloting your plane and it's going down. I know you're gonna do everything to make sure that you reach normal altitude. When you mentioned the situation with regards to what's happening in the community, people running away, they're giving wrong addresses and all of that. That scares even me asking you these questions. Do you have another method, aggressive, or that you're going to suggest to these authorities to say, look, if we don't do this, this is what will happen? You care to comment on that?
Well, we're still having discussions around this. At one point, we worked in collaboration with the Mosrado County Health Team and tested the water by using police officers to help us get to those homes and places where individuals were not willing to come out. And we got massive criticism on that. So we had to stop that. So currently, at the level of the incident management system, we are having discussions around what other strategies to come up with. Right now, the primary what we're doing is engaging them and trying to convince them to come for care.
Doc, you have been working on this infectious disease thing for quite a while now. I mean, I remember during the Ebola crisis, you were front and center. In the treatment unit, it was even falsely reported that you got infected. You had to clarify that you didn't get infected. Now again, in the early stages of this disease, you were the lead person at the treatment center and all of that. Does that really affect your psyche? Some of the times, do you wake up in the morning thinking that I'm going into this thing, there's a possibility that I may not come out?
Oh yes, certainly. Many times I ask myself whether for sure, I don't regret what I do.
Okay.
I feel happy about it because I see it as a calling. Becoming a doctor is something that I chose to do, that I'm passionate about.
Right.
And saving life is what I'm primarily. That's the primary reason why I chose to become a doctor. Mm. But I tried doing it not at my own detriment. There are safety measures one can take to prevent himself from getting infected. The very first thing one need to do is to understand the mode of spread, the mode of transmission of the disease, how you can get infected. And if you got infected, the signs and symptoms are there. Once you discover it, of course, you have to report it as a physician instead of trying to self treat yourself or self manage yourself at home. And this is what I try to pass on to the doctors and other medical staff that are working along with me.
And
But psychologically, it does affect me many times. I remember when we first started with Corona, I called a meeting at my house and told my family, wife and kids
oh wow.
that I was moving out of the house because of the road I was playing now
Wow.
at the treatment center. But and then told them to prepare another apartment in our compound that I will move in and don't sleep in the house anymore.
Great move.
But to my greatest surprise, I came back and the family held their own meeting when I was not there and said, look, we agreed that you still want to clean the apartment. We followed the order, we cleaned the apartment, but sorry, you have to stay with us in the house. We don't allow you to stay there. So it's like a talk of war at home.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to convince them. Even trying to find a partner for the doctors working within the unit. We found a couple of partners for them now, so that they don't go back to their homes and unknowingly affect their family member. But to be frank, it's a challenge, especially working with a disease where you may be asymptomatic for a while before discovering that you are infected with the disease. By then you might have
Spread it to other
interacting with
people.
your family member
Yeah.
and your kids and others might have gotten it before you begin to present your symptoms.
Right.
So we have to now, for some of us, for us who go home, have to reduce some of our activities with our family member. No longer interact much with my children, and like I used to. I have to restrict some of the movement they have together and gathering, assembling together. All because I don't know my status.
Yeah.
I may be asymptomatic going back home. And the only thing I try doing now is to do my test as often as possible. Perhaps every month, try to do my test and know where I am.
Dag, I just wanted to ask this last question. You know, I mean, we've talked to a number of people that have recovered from the disease from the military hospital. A few of them have talked about concussions, you know, that you've prepared. I mean, not necessarily traditional ones, but existing medication, you know, that you gave them that seemed to be effective. But also, we talked to a health practitioner. Was that Dr. Fala, I think? And he was talking about how, in fact, the new medicine, you know, that has been said to be discovered by British scientists, I think, to be effective against COVID-19. It's an existing medication, but that's something you've been using for a while now.
Yeah, thank you. Let me first give credit to the medical team at the 14 military, those young doctors from the postgraduate training program and other physicians we have there, because many of these discovery came about as a result of the clinical rounds and discussions that we have. And in the absence of all ventilator here, ventilator there, we don't have ventilator. And we knew we would have had patients with critical conditions.
Right.
But in those clinical rounds, the doctors discuss patients' condition individually and approach their condition according to their symptomatic presentation. And through that, the doctors begin to discover different treatment options for different patients as they came. And that's how some of these steroids, the low molecular weight, heparin and other things were brought on board, and we realized as time went by, with a kind of learning curve, many of the patients begin to recover. So, like when the Italian did their autopsy, it came up with how they were managing. They came up with that discovery about the actual pathophysiology of the disease.
Right.
We were already going along that line. When you started talking about dexamethasone,
dexamethasone. That's the new one, right?
We're almost like a month into using dexamethasone before they begin to talk about it.
Wow.
But it all came about as a result of studying the patient condition individually and as a team, having a clinical discussion just as we often do at the at the postgraduate training center. And that's one benefit we have in managing this disease compared to Ebola. During Ebola time, we never had a robust postgraduate training program as we have now. But the physicians the majority of the physicians we have now are from the postgraduate training school, and we kind of discuss patients' condition individually, and they are attended to according to your specific clinical presentations.
Are we?
But I must admit, a lot of credit goes to the clinical team as a result of their clinical discussions that are held weekly.
Are we close to a vaccine? Finally.
In Liberia, I won't say yes, but globally, there are efforts being made to produce vaccine, and we are like still 6 months or more away from that, because to start using vaccine, you have to have clinical trials,
right,
and ensure it's effective before you begin to use it on human. So there are clinical trials being conducted in other parts of the world to ensure that we have a vaccine being produced.
Okay, Doc, we gotta go. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much. I need to run to the incident management system meeting as well. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, that's
and
the
have
voice.
a blessed day. Please. I have three appeal to give to my fellow citizens. I beg you, I owe your vote. Please wear the mask appropriately. Cover your nose.
Yeah.
It's not coming from your mouth. As people cover their mouth and expose their nose, you will inhale the virus with your nose exposed and covering your mouth. Please cover your mouth and nose with the mask. 2, please wash your hands as often as possible, or keep your hands clean by using hand sanitizer. 3, maintain physical distancing. Once you can do those 3 things, you will combat COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the voice of Dr. Jerry Brown.
That first point he struck, and I kept telling people, I said, it's respiratory.
Who people you kept telling?
I said, I was telling you, I said, it's respiratory. Why are you covering your mouth and leaving your nose out?
I know. Anyway, well, Dr. Brown was so insightful this morning. He was talking to us about... Okay.
When you make that point where you say, now it's criticism versus life, which one? You said they tested it with the police in the community and they got criticism.
We were trying to get I'm trying to get to the Minister of Information. To get him to talk to us about some of the measures that we are taking.
Right.
But apparently we are having some issues this morning trying to get to Minister Nangbe.
And I guess it is.
Yeah, but what did you make of yesterday's protest? It seems as if the minister is trying to get back to us now.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, Minister.
Morning.
Yeah, this is, by the way, for those of you who weren't listening earlier, it's the Minister of Information, Len Eugene Nangbe. Minister Nangbe, something has been trending lately. We were to talk about a number of other issues, including the president's itinerary and what have you. But let's start with the trending issue first. Yesterday, some group of citizens, apparent agitators, set up roadblocks and fire in the middle of the street. The government took some actions, and those actions are ongoing. But talk to us about that. What's happening so far?
Well, the very unfortunate situation occurred yesterday morning where a group of youth who claim to be members of the self-styled COP group set up roadblocks and destroyed property, deployed tires and destroyed some vehicles. There were some damages. As a result, the police moved in to arrest those involved. But prior to that, the government issued a statement that those who carry out this illegal activity, along with their masterminds, will be picked up. And the investigation is ongoing. There have been some arrests. About 6 persons have been arrested. Also, the CEO of Orange Liberia has been called in for questioning.
Hello?
Hello?
For questioning,
Yeah, right.
in line with the supervisor assistant to the investigation. So he assisted, and he was allowed to go home with his lawyer. He came with. He's going back there today to continue with the investigation. The government is very serious. We have a democratic dispensation in our country where every Liberian, of whatever political leaning, can practice his politics. You can have freedom of expression, freedom of speech. You can call any radio station and express yourself. You can take the government to court if you believe something is not right. You can peacefully protest. It's also your right to peacefully protest. But the government will not accept a breach of the peace, will not accept violence, will not accept destruction in the name of politics. So there has been a strong mandate issued to the Minister of Justice to ensure that all of the perpetrators and their masterminds are brought to justice.
At this point, are we willing to announce some of the names of people that have been arrested so far? If not, do you also care to talk about what are some of? Does the government have some inclination as to why? Obviously, it has some inclination, but do you have some suspicion about why the Orange CEO was called in and what have you? And you care to disclose that?
The security forces determined that some of his activities were suspicious enough for him to come in to answer questions. I do not want to preempt the ongoing investigation.
Right.
I can give you a superficial overview, and this is what I'm doing. Also, we have about 6 persons arrested now. They have been processed, and the Liberian National Police will make further announcement regarding that. The reason why I, as the sector minister, cannot go into too much detail is that I could not be an investigator myself and not be a prosecutor myself, because this matter will end up in court. I do not want to make statements that will be injurious to the legal process. So the police and the Ministry of Justice will make further announcement about details of these activities I've just spoken about.
Minister Namgwe, listening to you, you talk about mandate, but were given to the Justice Minister. But before he will confirm in there, he knew that there's a mandate. Someone listening said, why would they want to tell him now, but when he already know his job prescription?
I didn't get it clearly for me.
I'm saying you said the Justice Minister was mandated. And I'm saying even when he was appointed, didn't he know his job description that when there is problems or chaos or disruption of the peace like this, that he just needed to move in versus someone mandating him?
Well, the statutory responsibility of the Minister of Justice is to do just that.
Right.
But it's also important that the authorities of government, led by the President, can reinforce such a mandate and for him to effect these, because there have been other incidents. Because arrest and prosecution is not the only tool that the Minister of Justice has. There are cases where the police will engage in community policing, they will mediate, and sometimes they don't pursue charges. But in this case, the mandate is that
Right.
a strong message, and this is why after meetings at the level of the high level of the government, we passed on this mandate of Mr. President that there should be justice for those who are carrying out these acts of violence, because it's not just an act against the few persons who were affected. It is a threat to our entire peace process, that people who arbitrarily jump on the street,
Right.
traffic, light fires, and then destroy properties and threaten to do more.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's the key part. The threat, they said they're going to do more.
I'm not hitting their hands, you know.
Okay.
They have announced publicly that they intend to undermine the security of the state. But all can be assured, you know, that the government is capable, our security apparatus is on top of the situation, and we ensure that we preserve the peace, because we are a democracy and there's no need for anybody to resort to violence
Right.
in the exercise of their political rights.
Well, there are a lot of things to talk about as far as this is concerned. You know, but like you said, you don't want to be injurious to, just in case this case goes for prosecution. So I want to switch to something else. Let's talk about, as far as the president's itinerary is concerned. I know that he participated in a West African Monetary Zone meeting. You care to talk more about that?
Yes, the president participated in the summit of the West African Monetary Zone, the WAMS. WAMS is the grouping of a black in ECOWAS
Right.
that subscribe to the idea of one monetary zone. They've been working towards that. So WAMS comprises Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, the Gambia, Sierra Leone. But at this meeting, the president of the Republic of Guinea, Professor Alpha Conde, also participated along with the presidents of all of these countries that I've just named. And at that summit, the president of Liberia called for the use of dialogue, because there is a stalemate within ECOWAS between the Francophone and Anglophone countries about this new common currency called the ECO. And because of the stalemate where the Francophones are going forward to name their new currency as the ECO, all five of the general agreement of ECOWAS that there should be a single currency also known as the ECO. So because of this stalemate, Mr. President proposed that a committee be formed to intercede, or to meet with the head of this bloc, the West African Monetary Union bloc, led by President Ouattara.
Right.
He also proposed that the committee have a meeting with the President of the Republic of France, President Emmanuel Macron, because France still is involved with the CFA bloc. So there was agreement with Mr. President's proposal, and in addition, he also called for an extraordinary summit of ECOWAS to be held very shortly. So the ECOWAS Commission is working on all of these proposals, so that a summit of ECOWAS will be called for this issue to be discussed by all of the member states of ECOWAS.
So we are nearing the point where the Liberian dollar is that the ultimate aim? The Liberian dollar could be replaced by the ECO?
Definitely, and in fact, all of the members of ECOWAS have already agreed that we should activate this conversion program. So there are steps to be taken before the ECO will come into place. But while all of these activities were happening, the CFA bloc, the Francophones, announced that they will transform the CFA now to ECO before the final convergence of all of the member states. So the idea is to have a single currency in ECOWAS. And this is what the meeting that Mr. President has proposed will seek to resolve. The stalemate that has come about as a result of these two ECOs, wanting to come about together.
That's cool.
Have we looked at the obviously I'm sure our economists have looked at the pros and cons because somebody sitting out there might be wondering what do we stand to benefit? I mean, wouldn't it weigh heavily on us, for instance, if there's an economy that isn't faring so well within the eco zone, and some of those side effects might just rub on us adversely?
Well, there is a convergence document that deals with all of the issues that you've raised. But I can say that there is a precedent. We see the euro with the European Union, single currency that's working very well. And also, perhaps we are forgetting that the reason ECOWAS was funded was to bring our economies together. That's why it's the economic community of West African states, for us to harmonize trade, to harmonize our tariffs, and for us to finally, harmonize our currencies. So a lot of work has been going into this since ECOWAS was founded, but now we are at the point where we believe that a single currency is the way to go for West Africa. There are ways to value the currencies of each country as the amalgamation period comes about, and all of these steps have been outlined in the convergence document. So it will not be something that will be negative for any particular country because the pros for this matter exceeds the cons. So what has happened is that there is a deadlock on some of the critical issues, and Mr. President has proposed that this meeting, this summit, extraordinary summit, that is to be called shortly, we're looking at possibly next week, that will be called, will resolve some of the outstanding issues. But the summit was not the president's only major engagement. He also had a meeting with the head of the UN in Liberia and the head of the WHO in Liberia. That was preceded by a meeting with the US government and the US CDC, the ambassador, the charge d'affaires of the US embassy here in Liberia, and her team. They also met with the president, and then the president had a virtual meeting with the head of the UN, the head of the CDC, and some members of his cabinet. That was followed yesterday with an in-person meeting with the Minister of Health, where she briefed the president on several issues, the Minister of Transport, the Minister of State, myself, the almost seven, the managing director of the airport authority, Mr. Reverend Bishop Clay, was also present. And for us to conclude, all of the president wanted to see all of the measures that will be put into place, which will be published today ahead of the opening of the airport on the 28th and ahead of the first flight, which is expected on the 29th. So the measures were approved by the select committee of the cabinet and of these agencies. The meeting was chaired by Mr. President. The Minister of Transport made a presentation. The head of the LAA also made a presentation. The Minister of Health made a presentation, and then we approved the final protocol for the reopening of the RIA. And that protocol will be published by the Ministry of Transport and the LAA and Ministry of Health today.
So we are still well on course for the first flight to come in on Monday. Brussels.
Yes, the first flight will be SM Brussels. That will be arriving on the 29th.
Yeah.
Because all of the protocols, a lot of work have been done already. I myself saw some of the changes made at the RIA to ensure social distancing. The washing stations have been put into place. There is somewhere for testing and screening, and so they are ready, and we're now the measures so how passengers can approach the airport, what are required for you to travel, and all of these things will be published today by the task force working on this. That includes the Ministry of Transport, Health, RIA, and LCA, and the Bureau of Immigration, represented by the Minister of Justice.
Lastly, overnight we saw a report came out which was in fact highlighted by the U.S. Embassy in Liberia, commending the government of Liberia for doing so well when it comes to the trafficking in person, and that particular, some of the particular actions that they were commending us for were taken in the last 2 years. You care to talk about that a little bit more?
This has been the elephant in the room for our country for many, many years. You know, we've been stuck at tier one, and now we've gone up because it's a key indicator from the U.S. government for aid and for support. You know, once you get on the second tier, you are more eligible for U.S. government aid. But what is more important is it shows that our government have met all of the international benchmarks to ensure that persons, our citizens, are not subjected to the evil of human trafficking. You know, so under the leadership of the Minister of Labor, the task force has been working, and we've met all of the benchmarks and the targets that were articulated in the U.S. government's own release. The president led the effort because he had the first meeting with the Assistant Secretary of State for Trafficking of the U.S. government in 2018. That was followed by subsequent meetings with U.S. authorities from State Department, and we work collaboratively to achieve this. And it's a big deal. You know, some will say, "What's the big deal?" It's a big deal because it's the main yardstick that the international community uses, that the U.S. government itself uses in determining the extent of their relationship with our government. So it's a big deal for us. We are happy. Now we're going to the next step because we want to get at the top. We want to get at the next tier. So we'll consolidate the gains made for us to achieve tier 2 qualification. Now we're going to work hard to go to the next step while consolidating and sustaining the gains that we already have made. But there are two. That's good news for Liberia. And there's also another good news that came about yesterday. We were named, Monrovia was named as one of the world's most beautiful cities. And they articulated why. You know, the scenery that we have in our country, in our capital city, we have beaches, we have a beautiful mangrove swamp,
Right.
we have a lush forest right outside of our capital. So these are the positives that, you know, some of our compatriots like to overlook. But when somebody, issues a distorted, embellished report that our country is the poorest, the wrong of that. But when the actors of international repute make a positive impact on our country and say something positive about us, they want to ignore it. So we're not going to ignore this. We're going to trumpet it, and we're going to sing it, and we're going to announce it always, because Liberia is making progress. Yes, we have some setbacks. We have some historical setbacks that we're grappling with right now. But when positive things are said about our country based on empirical evidence, empirical data, scientific data, we seek to ignore those. But when somebody fake a report that says we're the poorest, they're wrong with the fake report. And some of those running with the fake report are some of those who contributed to the problems we have in the country, and yet they are not ashamed. They want to lambast their own country, to bomb off. I mean, who does that? That you celebrate the negativity of your country,
With Minister Nangwe, you there?
I'm here.
With our country reeling from the effects of this particular deadly virus, our economic basically is shaky, or the fundamentals of our economy is shaky, and we have all these situations in the country, and folks wanting to come and visit, and there all of a sudden you got tires burning in the streets, road blocked, major let's say highway or boulevard blocked. What message does it send to the rest of the world about Liberia? And this time, I know we've seen this, like the people always say, we've seen this movie before. Nothing will come out of it and so forth. You see on social media. This time, what should the Liberian people expect, especially those one who just want to go about their normal duty? Because we saw this particular. Yeah, go ahead.
It's never good when people carry out illegal activities. It doesn't make us look good. People looking in, will say, if the government doesn't act, then that's issues. So there will always be violators. There will always be people who are provocateurs who want to undermine the peace. But it is the response of the government. We respond in a way that would deter a reoccurrence of such an activity, because there is no need for anybody to resort to violence.
Right.
If you have an issue with a government's policy or an activity of the government, in fact, the very issue that these people are proclaiming to be engaging in violence for is an issue that is before the Supreme Court as we speak. The issue of the surcharge is being adjudicated at the highest court of the land. So what is the need now, having gone to court, to leave the legal process, the judicial process, and resort to this sort of violence and threats of additional violence? So
right.
it is unacceptable. The government will not accept this, and we will remain firm in preventing the reoccurrence of what has happened to yesterday, because it is not something that can be tolerated. Like you said, the economy is stressed because of the historical issues and because of the exacerbation done by COVID-19, and we are struggling to come out of it. And now, these people, without any regard to the preservation of the peace of our country, are pretending to be political actors, but when in fact they are just hooligans wanting to disturb the peace.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, we just wanted to be clear on this subject just before you leave. If I'm being pointed to that specifically, you talked about the embellished report that distorted the fights about the country's status currently. We know that the International Organization of Repute that's supposed to state whether or not Liberia is the poorest or not are organizations like the UNDP and all the different UN organizations. We didn't see that kind of report from them, right?
That's exactly the point.
Yeah.
Our country, we're not where we want to be. We have to do a lot of work to take Liberia out of the situation we are in, and this work is ongoing.
Right.
But for somebody to embellish and fabricate and distort, an unscientific report and then start spreading it throughout the social media to denigrate the country, to malign the image of the country, it's unfortunate. These people who are spreading this embellished distortion are not doing any good for our country, So the indicators have shown that we've made progress, So what we've done so far, are they sufficient? No. But to come and say we're the poorest country in the world when we are not the poorest is just unacceptable. So there are indicators from UNDP, from the World Bank, from the IMF that say that we need to do more, but none of the internationally accepted indicators or rankings will ever put Liberia as the poorest, and we will never be the poorest country in the world. Never, never, never. In fact, we are claiming, and we continue to claim, because those fundamentals that are required, access to, there was a report done before the MCC came in. MCC is the U.S. government Millennium Challenge program that awards country based on certain performances that award you grants for development. Before we got into compact, into MCC's compact, there was a strange analysis done. It was found that the two main binding constraints to Liberia's development was lack of road connectivity and lack of electricity in sufficient quantities.
Right.
So if you see that the president is targeting road connectivity, is to address that binding constraint to our development. And we are on course with that. With the coastal highway getting funding now, with the road from Ganta to Tapeta and later on to Swedru, with funding secure for Ganta to Tapeta. Once we expand our countries with road connectivity, and then we deal with the issue of stable supply of power, which is also ongoing. Some of these rankings that we have, that where we are still low, will skyrocket and our country will be better. So we are tackling the constraints, the binding constraints to our economic growth and to our growth as a country, our developmental growth have been tackled. So for people to come and
lastly, we're opening just the airport, not all other borders across the country, right?
No, not yet. We are still reviewing all of that. There is a general consensus among ECOWAS countries that we should harmonize the opening of borders. That discussion is still ongoing. And the measures for us to open the measures that we have to put, given the porosity of our borders, we have to account for that first before we can open the land borders. But because the air border is optional, we can control it easier than to control the porous land border. So we're starting with the airport. We are all watching to see how the first, there have been test runs, because there were non-commercial flights coming in that have been going through some of the protocols. 2 days ago, there was a flight from Morocco. Air Morocco came, but it came as a special flight, not a commercial flight. There was a flight that flew to India from RIA. There was several flights that flew to the U.S. from RIA. So we've been testing the protocols already, not at the commercial level, but through these special flights. So now the first commercial flight is expected to be SN Brussels on Monday, and then we will go through the regimes. But I just want to reiterate that the protocols, the procedures will be announced today by the Ministry of Transport, the Airport Authority, and the Ministry of Health.
Thank you so much.
Before you go, Minister Nangwe, will you be willing for the media to cover the first flight?
I'm not getting you well.
I say, will you be willing to allow the media to cover the first arrival after COVID?
Yes,
post-COVID?
yes, definitely. We'll work on that.
Okay,
It's doable.
Please do.
Thank you so much, Minister Nangbe. Another thing you want to say? Okay, well, that's the voice of Minister Len Eugene Nangbe. That was quite, an extensive interview there. We touched on various subjects. We're about to.
He makes a very, very great interviewee.
Yeah, I mean he just keeps coming with the information, and as a matter of fact, we're talking with the ELBC management. There's going to be a point where hopefully when Leggy and his team can agree that we extend this show to like 2 hours straight. So from 8 to 10, where we talk to public relations officers at the various government ministries and agencies,
and get the public to
get developments from those different places, but also talk to LINA correspondents across the country, and get developments from the different towns and hamlets in and around Liberia. So we are working on that with EOBC. We're going to open the lines for just 5 minutes now and talk to a few callers. You can call us on the following numbers: 0776 089713, that's 0776 089713, or 0880 514096. That's 0880 514096. Let's talk to this first caller. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, my brothers.
Yeah,
how are you?
Your name, where are you calling from?
Well, this is Agent Poto calling from Brookville.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I want to thank the minister this morning. But my concern is that we cannot have thugs, hooligans, miscreants to threaten the survivability of this state. The Justice Minister, I heard Kwame ask a very important question. Does it need to be mandated before he acts? The security of the state is being compromised. What is going on? This man should be transferred to another ministry.
Well, that's your point of view. Let's move on to. I am open to you discussing your suggestions and all of that. You've made your point and everything. And the suggestions already made. Let's talk to this other caller. You can call us on WhatsApp if you want to participate on this show. We have our WhatsApp line also open. Plus 231 886 56 1537. That's plus 231 886 56 1537. Correct. Let's talk to this other caller. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I think to Minister Namwe in terms of giving all of the information. So the issue of Liberia being among the 10 poorest countries, where that information is coming from?
That's the thing.
And the second thing is that, you made a point.
Liberia can only be better in terms of road connectivity and electricity.
Right.
But in the absence of getting paved roads, let us be sincere in maintaining the roads we have. For over 2 years now, every year the public works minister is saying between capital and the town east, people are there maintaining the road, but that is not true. That is right. These are the people that are making this government to be complaint, because anything when they go to present issues, they want to be rhetorical. Anyway, my name is Sarah David from Maryland County.
From where? Maryland?
He's calling from Maryland.
Oh, okay, that's good. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Minister. Good morning, Kwame.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
This is Brian Tati calling from Capitol Hill.
Go ahead,
Brian.
Yes, let me thank the Minister of Information. I think he rams out most of the information that we want to hear. But you know, it's good that government take drastic actions on those people that they lay hand on. And they even should go beyond as he was talking. Because sometimes these people, they are not adding, lonely. They are not adding innocently. They are people who insulting those people. So the more you take actions on people that may have similar idea, they will try to, revive from what they want to do. It's the common people that suffer. All these things they're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good morning. Okay, well, I think that's all the time we have for this morning's edition of the show. We had hope, to extend it up to. Okay, we have this one caller. Let's talk to this caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, your name and where you calling from?
Yes, I'm Charles Nando, and I call you for Central Town.
Charles, go ahead.
Yeah, let me commend the minister, but I think undiscerning opinion of the people. The minister said what keeps funding poverty is that growth and that of power. But I think the issue, because I'm listening to the Boakai report, my brother, is the issue of the sports system over decades. We have a system that is not checkmate. If you have the sports system and you cannot address the sports system, you will not have growth, you will not have power, because if you generate this money, people steal this money and pay banks, then you will not navigate. So the issue of Nigeria over decades, in that president we are alone, leaders have come and have refused to address the porosity of the system. They come and navigate through the system, and at the end of the day, nothing is done. They leave the system, they leave power, and just remain poverty. So we need to checkmate the system, the electricity. Have you ever heard now GSC can conduct an audit? Not audit. The GSC just sitting there. Nobody wants to checkmate the system, and we'll continue on this. Liberia will remain poor. Thank you very much this morning.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Well, what I think that's all we can do for this morning's edition of the show. Well, today we talked to Dr. Jerry Brown. Dr. Brown is the head of the National Case Management. He was talking to us about conditions at the different treatment centers across the country. He said that they've opened a new treatment center because obviously the military hospital has been overwhelmed right now.
The Lebanese
Cultural Union donated a treatment center. I think about 50 some more beds. And they began operating there, he said, yesterday. But something remarkable, he said, was that a drug that was said to have been developed, not developed actually, but they found it is been in existence, but they found that it's very effective against the treatment of COVID-19.
And they've been using that
but
for
that
months.
drug, Dr. Brown told us, has been in use in Liberia for about a month.
Right.
Before the war realized that this drug is effective. That
Italians.
Yeah. So basically, it shows that we ahead of the curve somewhat. That's why
especially looking at our numbers of
the number of deaths.
Right.
He's basically said once you enter the treatment center, and this has been touted for quite a while now, that you are 99.9% likely to survive COVID-19 once you go to
one
treatment in
disturbing thing
Liberia.
he said is, my people out there, please don't run away. If you're diagnosed and they say you were hanging out with Kwame and they come to Kwame, please stand up and go to the hospital.
And of course, we had the information minister. He was talking about the appalling incident that happened on yesterday on the Totman Boulevard. He said the government is extremely serious. They're going to go after those that are responsible, including their masterminds. He disclosed that the government has so far, the National Police, they've arrested about 6 people. He also disclosed that the security forces have determined that they needed to call in the CEO of Orange Liberia. He came in yesterday with his lawyer, and he was asked about that. And the information minister did say that he's due to go back there again today. And then he then talked about the president's itinerary, talking about the president's virtual summit he had with the West African Monetary Zone people, and then other meetings with the UN representative in Liberia, and of course senior members of his cabinet. He said that today they're going to put out the itinerary for the arrival of flights at the airport, which is on schedule. The first flight is due to arrive on the 29th of this month, which is Monday. That's all the time we have for this morning's edition of Micat Hour. Micat Hour is a production of the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism. You just heard the minister of that ministry, Minister Len Eugene Nangbe. But also I just wanted to say good morning to all the different ministers at the Ministry of Information, Minister Anthony Daniel Gayu,
Princess Tokolon,
Eugene,
Assistant Minister of Tourism.
Yeah, Eugene Fagon, Deputy Minister for Public Affairs, Deputy Minister for Culture and Tourism, Lance Bagoyon, Assistant Minister for Technical Services, my own immediate assistant, David Collet, right. Assistant Minister for Administration, Jura Sano, Assistant Minister for Culture, Margaret Frank, Assistant Minister for Information Services, Daniel Nooks Thomas. So that's all the time we have for this morning's edition. My name is Boakai M. Fofana. I am the Deputy Minister for Technical Services at the Ministry of Information.
And I am Kwame Opa Wicks, the Director General of the Liberia News Agency, and we say ciao.
This is ELBC Radio. Like I said, my guest on this last and final presentation of the Super Morning Show for this week is the Commissioner General of the Liberia Immigration Service, Commissioner Robert W. Booty. He's on the line. Commissioner Booty, welcome to the Super Morning Show. It's good to have you.
Good morning, Mr. Buffett Camara, and thanks for having me on the Super Morning Show.
Great. We speak to you at a time the reopening of the Rabas International Airport is in sight, and you are aware of that. You just listened to the Information Minister Eugene Nangbe. But before we delve into the reopening of the RIA and how prepared you are, let's first talk about, as part of the joint security effort to implement the lockdown and also, under the state of emergency, how extra preparation has the Liberia Immigration Service, made for this round 2 of the state of emergency as part of the security apparatus is concerned?
With respect to the Liberian Immigration Service, we are adequately prepared. Statutorily, as you may know, the Liberian Immigration Service is responsible to guard and protect the borders and boundaries of Liberia against illegal entry of persons into the country. As it relates to the COVID-19, the coronavirus, we are playing a very key role at all port of entry throughout the breadth and length of Liberia.
When you talk about preparation, what are you talking about? You mean manpower wise?
As you may know, prior to the COVID in Liberia, we have been involved in maintaining and controlling the movement of persons along all port of entry in Liberia. We are responsible to admit and exit travelers coming into Liberia and leaving Liberia. Now, we got COVID-19. We are in a great fight. As you may know, Liberia shares border with Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. The virus is a foreign virus. Immigration is posted at 46 border entry points, making sure that they work with their counterparts across the border and also with the joint security of Liberia to ensure that persons
that are allowed to enter Liberia are properly screened. And for those individuals that opt or decide to use the bypasses, when they do, they get intercepted and they are sent right back across the border. Those countries that I just named, the neighboring countries like La Cote d'Ivoire, which has a very high transmission rate among Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. Even though we noticed that our rate is coming up, but relatively speaking, those three neighboring countries have a higher rate than Liberia. So immigration has been playing a pivotal role, making sure that individuals or aliens or illegal migrants attempting to cross into Liberia along those bypasses or illegal routes are intercepted or interdicted and sent right back across the border. So we are playing a very, very major role ensuring that we keep Liberia safe and secure.
Okay, well, we'll come to the porousness of our borders, because we talked about this before. But the airport, as part of government's effort to, partially reopen the economy and get things started again, will be open on the 28th of June, and the first flight SM Brussels coming on the 29th, Monday. And the guidelines for, the protocols for the reopening of the RRA, according to the information minister, will be published today. You play a very pivotal role at the RRA. How prepared is the Liberia Immigration Service to, enhance the various, protocols and perform duties as the airport reopens?
As I indicated previously, we are adequately prepared. We have been having a consultation among all border state actors. We know that there will be additional measures that will be put in place by the Health Ministry, but it has to be synchronized by other ECOWAS states, meaning that you can't have Liberia doing one thing and our counterparts are doing something different in processing travelers coming in and leaving the country. So at this stage, they are synchronizing all the protocols, health protocols that will be put into place. And like I said, we will be there and making sure that we have the air border open at that time, as pronounced by His Excellency or declared by His Excellency. So we'll be there making sure that all the requirement that has to do with the health protocols are adhered to. The immigration have their statutory role. They will be playing that at the time the borders, the air borders officially open. Other stakeholders like DEA, you got the planned quarantine, customs, you have the NSA, you have other stakeholders that will be also playing the statutory role at the time. So for the most part, only the health protocols will change, and I can say, off here now, what will be those changes that will be made. So as I said earlier, there's a number of consultations being taking place and currently taking place at this particular point in time, and at such time, the public will be informed adequately.
How many immigration officers we have assigned at the airport?
We have a reasonable number of officers that are charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the alien nationality law are enforced at the airport.
You don't have a fixed figure of officers?
Well, from my training and experience, we don't give numbers.
Okay.
What we do have, we have committed and dedicated officers that are charged with the responsibility to ensuring that the alien nationality law is enforced to the better.
Was there extra preparation made, given the current situation, and with would there be a change in the strategy, and not normally the way it used to be before the emergence of a health crisis like this one? Is that a different strategy?
Well, as I said earlier, all of the border state actors, they have statutory role. They're going to play in. There's no change in that. Only the health protocol, like I said, may change. And as I said, it will be synchronized, meaning that
the other countries like Ivory Coast, Ghana, Guinea, that are part of the ECOWAS state, all of these countries will have the same health protocol that will be applied, so that they will have the same to be applied, so that all can be the same. And that's what they are working on right now as we speak.
Okay. Now, do you want to disclose, as part of the guidelines, the protocols from the side of the immigration? Did you inject into the protocols generally that will be published by the government? Did you inject from the side of the immigration what aspect of the protocols that you want to pay attention to? Did you recommend anything?
Well, like I said, this discussion can be, said on the public radio. We have been meeting, constantly with our counterparts that are involved in the border management and security. We have been discussing a number of issues, and I don't think I'm the proper authority to speak on those issues that relates to health matter. I'm not a health practitioner. I'm a security expert, and I've given them my own security opinions, and I'm quite sure they'll look into it, and if they feel that it is necessary, they'll use that. So I can say upfront right now what my input. We are still discussing.
Okay.
So that's what we are right now.
Now, let's leave the airport a little bit. You've spoken always about the porousness of our borders, something I see as putting our state at risk. And the last time we spoke, you told me that 130 border towns are not manned. This is not. There is no state security. There is no state security there, and that number is still the same, or it has increased.
Absolutely, the 130 unmanned border towns still exist. But you see, we have a mechanism put in place. We have the Border Patrol Unit. It's an elite or armed unit of the Liberal Immigration Service charged with responsibility of conducting foot and mobile surveillance patrol along the borders that do not have state border actors. We have 176 border towns bordering with the 3 neighboring countries, out of which we have 46 that are operationalized, meaning that we have state security border actors that are conducting their statutory mandates at these 46 border towns. Unlike the 130, do not have state security border actors. So we have the Border Patrol, is the armed unit. They are charged with that responsibility to conduct foot patrols, conduct mobile patrols, and if where they come in contact with anybody who is not a Liberian citizen, that person will be sent right back to where he or she came through. And that has been taking place since the onset of the COVID-19.
Yeah, go ahead.
And also prior to the COVID-19 declaration.
What I'm more concerned about the effectiveness of that, because there are challenges. The challenge of sometimes the vehicle no fuel, the challenge of bad roads, the challenge of limited manpower, So taking into consideration all of those, is it effective?
Yeah, like you already said, there are always challenges. No matter what the situation is, there's always challenges. But we don't see that as a barrier. We always go above and beyond that. The good thing in our field, we have dedicated and committed officers that put their life on the line for their country. They are rendering sacrificial services to the government, people of Liberia, and that's where the strength is. With all the challenges, we go above there because of the dedication and the commitment that of these officers have for the country, and that's where we are. So, but in terms of gasoline, limited fleet of mobility,
that will come in time. We understand that we have a health crisis right now, so we are not putting a lot of pressure on the Liberian government to give adequate gasoline or more mobility or provide uniform. We can see that we have a health crisis, so we allow the government to give priority to the health sector at this particular point in time. But what we really rely on, with all the challenges we have along the border, we are making a lot of gains, we are making a lot of achievements, and that is why our number is not as compared to the numbers in those neighboring countries, because the key role or the pivotal role that the Liberian Immigration Service is playing are those unmanned border towns. So we are doing our part, and we are also collaborating with the traditional chiefs and councils that reside in those bordering towns, sensitizing them, giving them some awareness about the COVID-19 and how what role they can play to prevent or eliminate the spread along those borderlines. So that's what the immigration have been doing and continue to do during this pandemic period.
But the truth is, the country is at risk, especially with this number of, unmanned border towns. I mean, this is not safe at all.
No, I disagree with you. It has been like that before, and it's currently like that. But what I'm saying, even if we're not also with just being focused on the land border, but we are also in the sea. We have our marine units that are collaborating or working hand in hand with the Liberian National Coast Guard at the southeastern region, in the southeastern corridor, and we also have them deploy at the western corridor in Grand Cape Mount County, where illegal migrants or illegal aliens are riding motorized canoe boats that trying to come into Liberia waters can be interdicted and sent back. So we are everywhere. So not because we have challenges in our area, meaning that we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We do have those challenges, but they are not a threat to the country, because we have people that are out there that are sacrificing their lives for their country. So we got men and women out there with the limited resources we have maximized on them to utilize them to the best of our ability, and that's what we are doing, and we are making gains.
Well, there was this, report that some Senegalese came to the country via Nimba County, and they came and they are carrying on before the outbreak, the coronavirus intensified. It was in February, and they came on the invitation of one resident in Nimba County. And how have you been able to establish their legal entry and the work they do, the construction work they do?
Well, I can't recall about any Senegalese coming through Nimba County.
Well,
I'm not aware of that, but I'll follow up with that. Saying you said it happened in February, yeah. But what I do know, there have been a number of foreign nationals trying to use Ivory Coast and Guinea to enter Liberia, and by using the bypass routes or illegal routes, we interdicted them or intercepted them, and we sent them right back. We had a situation where one of our own citizens got drowned. A family, a Liberian family, they didn't want to use the official crossing point. They decided to use a bypass route in Buyi, Zuluyi town. There's a town called Zuluyi in Nimba County between Ganta and Sanukoli. They decided and use the St. John River to cross into through the St. John River to enter Liberia. And unfortunately, while they were crossing the river, the child of this family was on the back of the wife, and the child fell in the river and got drowned. And so we are calling on Liberians that are deciding to enter their own country. They have the constitutional right to enter, but the restriction we have at the land border is to ensure that when you enter, you are quarantined for 14 days in the precautionary observation center, just to make sure that you are clear. So we want to call on Liberians residing in those neighboring countries that want to enter their own country to come to the official crossing points.
Now let's talk deportation. On the 26th of May, at least 12 Liberians were deported. I mean, amidst the COVID-19, deportation is still ongoing. So how many Liberians now have been deported in total during this period?
Yeah, we have about, let's say, 12 to 14 Liberians that have been deported. We have another batch coming in on the 1st of July. We have 7 persons coming in on July 1st. Besides that, we have been receiving a number of Liberian deportees from the U.S. and other parts of the world. I remember when I was Deputy Commissioner General for Operations here during the Mother Ellen Johnson's regime, I saw a record that shows that we have over 1,500 Liberians that were being incarcerated in various prisons in the USA that were serving as prison terms. And after the prison term, they were scheduled to be deported back to their country of origin, where their immigration status was stripped off from them. And that's the process that is ongoing. That's a bilateral arrangement with the government of the U.S. and Liberia. We are just the implementing partners that will stay at the border and receive them. We don't have any authority to say who can come and who cannot come. So we receive them and we process them, and then they go to counseling, and their immediate relative or family member come and sign for them. And that's what has been going on.
And how rigorous is that process, the process of integration?
Well, you see, I don't find it we have not found it difficult for them to get reintegrated into society. Some of them still remember that memories of Liberia. Some of them that came back did have no memories of Liberia. But we have been counseling them, telling them about the Liberian culture. We have a counseling section at the Liberian Immigration Service where we counsel them. When they come in, we don't keep them as suspects or prisoners here because they did not commit crime in Liberia. They committed crime outside Liberia, and they have served those terms. They went through the punishment, and they are back, and they come and they join their family, rejoin their family here.
So of all the state crimes committed, which one is more prominent?
Drug possession, weapon possession, fraud, theft of property.
So I mean, let's talk now about your cooperation with your counterparts in the MRU region. What is it like?
Oh, it's great. I have a very good relationship